A New Story of the Titanic. Chapter 1. The Beginning. It was a sunny day in April 1912. People gathered at the port in Southampton, England. Everyone was excited. The Titanic, the biggest and most luxurious ship ever built, was ready to sail. The ship looked like a floating palace. Its white side shone in the sunlight, and its 4 tall funnels reached high into the sky. Passengers from all over the world came to board the Titanic. There were rich men in fine suits and women in beautiful dresses. They carried elegant luggage. Families with children and workers with dreams of a better life also came. They were ready to travel to America. One of these passengers was Jack Taylor, a young man of 20. Jack was from a small village in Ireland. He had saved money for years to buy his ticket. His dream was to start a new life in New York. Jack carried a small bag with all his belongings. He was smiling as he stepped onto the ship. Another passenger was Clara Bennett, a 19-year-old girl from London. Clara was traveling with her wealthy family. Her father was a businessman, and they were going to America for new opportunities. Clara loved adventure and was thrilled to sail on the Titanic. She wore a lovely blue dress and carried a small notebook to write about her journey. Chapter 2. Life on the Titanic. The Titanic was like a small city on water. It had everything: a swimming pool, a gym, fancy dining rooms, and even a library. The first-class passengers lived in grand rooms with soft beds and big windows. They enjoyed fine food and music played by a band. Jack was in third class. The rooms there were smaller and simpler. But Jack didn't mind. He was happy just to be on the Titanic. He spent his days exploring the ship, meeting people, and enjoying the fresh sea air. Clara spent her time in the first-class areas. She walked on the deck, wrote in her notebook, and talked with other passengers. One day, she saw Jack watching the waves. She smiled and said hello. Jack was surprised but smiled back. They started talking. Clara found Jack's stories about his village interesting, and Jack admired Clara's curiosity. As days passed, they met often. Jack showed Clara the third-class area, and Clara introduced Jack to her world of luxury. They learned about each other's lives and dreams. Despite their different backgrounds, they became friends. Chapter 3. The Iceberg. On the night of April 14, 1912, the Titanic sailed smoothly through the dark sea. The stars shone brightly in the clear sky. Most passengers were asleep, but some were still awake, enjoying the night. Jack and Clara stood on the deck, talking and laughing. Suddenly, a loud noise broke the calm. The ship shook. Jack and Clara looked at each other, confused. The Titanic had hit an iceberg. The crew rushed to check the damage. Water began pouring into the lower parts of the ship. People were told to stay calm, but fear spread quickly. The captain ordered the lifeboats to be prepared. Chapter 4. Escape. Jack and Clara ran to the lifeboats. The crew asked women and children to board first. Clara's family was already in a boat. Clara looked at Jack, her eyes full of tears. "Come with me," she said. "I can't," Jack replied. "They won't let me." Clara hesitated. She didn't want to leave Jack. But Jack held her hand and said, "You must go. Be safe." Clara stepped into the lifeboat. The boat was lowered into the freezing sea. Clara watched as Jack stayed behind, helping others. She prayed for his safety. Chapter 5. Survival. The Titanic sank into the icy water. Clara's lifeboat floated in the dark. The passengers shivered in the cold. Clara couldn't stop thinking about Jack. Hours later, a rescue ship, the Carpathia, arrived. Clara and the others were saved. Days passed, but there was no news of Jack. Clara felt a deep sadness. She returned to New York with her family, but her heart was heavy. She kept hoping that Jack had survived. Chapter 6. A New Beginning. A month later, Clara walked in a park in New York. She sat on a bench, lost in thought. Suddenly, she heard a familiar voice. "Clara?" She turned and saw Jack. He looked tired but alive. Clara's eyes filled with tears. "Jack, you're alive!" Jack explained how he had survived. He had clung to a piece of wood until a rescue boat found him. Clara hugged him tightly. They were together again. From that day, Jack and Clara stayed in New York. They worked hard and built a new life. Their friendship grew into love. They never forgot the Titanic or the people they lost, but they were grateful for their second chance. The Titanic story was tragic, but for Jack and Clara, it was also a story of hope, courage, and new beginnings.